Hi, everyone. Welcome to Real Siblings. It ain't easy. I am Donna Reed with Keller Williams, Southern Arizona. I'm in Tucson, Arizona, and I'm here with my brother.
Eric Seaman with Keller Williams Heritage, and I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
As you are about to find out, this is not your typical real estate podcast. In fact, we blend lifestyle together with real estate to entertain and inform our listeners. We've spent a whole lot of time talking about the houses, and today we're going to talk about the lifestyle. We hope that you will find our nostalgic conversation, despite all of the twists and turns that we have, enlightening and entertaining. And in the end, we also hope that we'll be successful in providing you expert knowledge of our markets while we share statistics and information about the local real estate market. Lack of perfection. Take it away, Eric.
Yeah. So we've recognized that we've been doing this all along, blending lifestyle and properties, but it really was episode 16 with realtor coach and instructor Teresa Barnaby, our guest, who helped us recognize and better articulate and emphasize lifestyle when she said, real estate is a lifestyle. It doesn't matter what it is, where you live. It is a reflection of what you want in your life and how you choose to live. So with that in mind, we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about Lindsey in what that represented from a lifestyle. And then also Donna will talk about Tucson and Arizona. I'm going to talk about Texas. But before that, I wanted to get into a little bit of information. In our last episode, we had looked at those four houses that Donna brought up in the introduction. And we went into detail. And one of the things that we did is we went into specifically what we were seeing in the Sandusky County auditors' records on each of those houses. And there were some questions we had because it didn't make sense that these houses the big brick house on 112 Lynn Street showed as being 1900 when we had seen pictures beforehand.
We know it's before that. Yeah.
As a follow-up, I called the Sandusky County auditors' offices last week, and I spoke with Julie, and she gave me permission to use her name, didn't get a last name, and she actually lives over in Burgoon. And in that conversation, I was just specifically trying to ask questions, and I gave her the addresses, and she pulled up the records. And number one, the reason it seems like three of those four houses, and as we found out from some of our listeners, having family still in the area checking, all of the houses show in Lindsey that they were built in 1900. We know that's not the case. However, at some point when the Sandusky County Auditor's Office began automation and transferring records from paper and ledgers to computer, there was some limitation in the system which would not allow them to enter records that existed or went beyond 1800, or excuse me, not 1800, into the 1800s in 1900. So by default, everything became 1900. Now, since that time, they've upgraded the system, but they haven't had a chance to go back and go or put the effort into
when was it really built?
All of the houses in general. If it's a specific historical house, Rutherford B. Hayes's house, obviously that record is adjusted because we know when it was built. General George Croghan's house. Some of the other stuff that is very specific, they've made adjustments to. But unless the owner comes back with specific information, they're not doing it. So that was just interesting to me. The other part,
especially, because we've always known, or we've always been told that home that we lived in on Lynn Street was like the oldest in town, one of the oldest. So
and I think it was, as I remember, there was a big piece of land, actually the part of the land out behind the school that went down towards the cemetery was C.A. Monk's, who was also the C.A. Monk that built this house. And I don't know who C.A. was. I don't know the initials, but I remember Mr. Miller reading that name so distinctly on Memorial Days, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Right? You heard it. You heard it in your ear. It's crazy. The other part that I wanted to check on, because again, we lived on the first house on Main Street was, as far as we're concerned, 2 stories. what was explained to me is they show that as being an attic and a finished attic only because of the slope of the roof from the roadside.
We had like 2 big rooms and a little room up there.
I said, there were 4 kids that lived upstairs in that area that was a finished attic. It was,
wow.
So terminology, they use conventional, and a conventional is either a single or a 2-story.
Oh.
A bi-level, which would be more along the lines as I'm recalling it, out on the country where Eichers, Niswanders, and Overmeyers lived.
Yeah.
All 3 of those houses, as I recall, were what would be considered a bi-level. Garage, up a few stairs into the living, then up into area that was above the garage. Then they have multi-level, which is more than 2 living floors. So if for some reason there's a 2-story like duplex, and then the last one would be, and of course, the other part that went into multi-level was 134 North Main.
Right. I was thinking
that a multi-level. So attics, finished and unfinished. And of course, if someone doesn't go in and tell them, they don't have the resources to go send someone out and go walk through the houses to see what's there. So,
well, and maybe it's changed, right? I mean, who knows? But okay.
So that's the reason why 1900. And that's the reason why we were a bit confused as to how they categorize things. I asked the question specifically about the 2-story brick with the mansard roof. If that was 6 foot tall, and they said if it had sheetrock in it, if somebody buys the house and puts sheetrock and finishes off square walls, then it'll be converted to living space if they report it. Otherwise, it's not. So that part that I want to bring up to you, and you tell me from your standpoint, I don't know of anybody from a property tax standpoint who wants to pay more in property taxes.
and just increase things and say, well, no, you're right.
So
that will never happen.
In San Antonio, when they convert a garage into living space, they leave the garage door on it. Why? So that from the street, it still looks like a garage and they don't have to pay for that as living space. However, we know that when it goes to sell, what happens?
Yeah, then they're going to say, is it permitted, and do all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. There's all kinds of stuff on the back end when they actually go to sell. It's great for those few years that they don't pay the property taxes, but when they want to sell it, it's like, but we have 400 square foot of living space.
Okay, brother.
Really. So
we weren't going to talk that much about the house, and now we just talked a whole lot about the house. So let's talk about lifestyle. And part of it, you guys, is this time, if you're watching on video, we purposely left our rooms exposed so that you can see where we are. You can see that Eric and I both kind of have a lot of things on the wall, and I'm laughing, Eric. So part of this is who we are as people, because we know that like our older brother lives very different than us. But I'm assuming your green is because of Michigan State. You got the Spartan thing there, and you've always been a Coke collector. And I think that Route 66, I got you from a company that made it in Ohio long time ago.
I think so, and I like old movies. Yeah. So the Casablanca movie was on there. There's a picture of the Capitol building that goes back to my high school days. One of my high school classmates, when we went to Washington, D.C. in spring of 1983, took that picture, and then he did the silk screen and gave it to us as gifts. That was hard. So, everything means something. And what about you?
Yeah, so for me, the
Serape?
The Serape I got in Mexico and Up With People in 1977. And next to that is things from Belgium. That's a dish towel from Belgium with the atomium and stuff. And then hanging over there is old pictures. And the one that you can kind of see that's turquoise and purple, I just got from another Up With People alumni who does a lot of women painting. And then we donate to a nonprofit if we win it online.
Where's that? The turquoise, is that that
turquoise and purple thing right there?
Okay, I can't tell that it's purple. I'm seeing everything's coming through is kind of blues to me.
And I don't know if you know that, but that green lamp that's hanging there, I got at the baby show one year when they were closing out one of the booths with
No.
And that's Gil's picture of the desert, and the one that's with the light reflecting on it.
That's with the Gamble's quails in it. Is that the one with the quail in it? Okay.
And a cowboy and stuff. And then the other picture is one that I did in pastels in like 9th grade for grandma. And you can't see it very well because the light reflecting. And my guitar case, which is totally falling apart with, the guitar that I can play 8 chords on. So this is a little bit of our lifestyle in our home, right? This is where we live. But what you tell our listeners what took you to San Antonio, even like to go there.
Okay, so in 1992, actually late 1991, I was back in Germany from Desert Shield, Desert Storm. There was a promotion board, but before the promotion board, there was what they call a RIF board, reduction in force. We had just beaten Saddam Hussein, which at the time was the third largest army in the world, and the Berlin Wall had fallen, peace was breaking out, and I was told I wasn't needed anymore. So I hooked up with a headhunting company called Military Recruiting Institute, MRI, and 3 weeks after I was discharged at Fort Dix, I interviewed in Houston. I did 12 interviews in 2 days, got 2 offers. One was going to ultimately train me in Dallas and end up placing me in downtown Chicago, and the second was San Antonio. And having family in Chicago, knowing how much I already did not like traffic, it was a very easy decision for me to go, hello, welcome to Texas. And
wow. I didn't know that about Chicago.
My 31st anniversary is coming up in May.
So, and it's ironic because Dan got out at the same time. So Dan ended up working near Fort Riley in Manhattan, Kansas, and also from the reduction in forces and not the officer promotion that may or may not have happened. So, and for me, I came to Tucson because of Up With People. And my husband was from Tucson. We lived in Ohio 20 years, but he always missed the desert. He always missed the mountains. So when we think about lifestyle, when we think about why people go or come from where they are, you and I talked a little bit in advance about the fact that Tucson we have a university, a big university, 55, 60,000 students, some great engineering, optics, some really unique programs that bring people from all over the world. We have a military base, Davis-Monthan Air Force, and we have a whole lot of senior citizens.
Woo, so seasoned citizens, yes.
Yeah, seasoned. There you go. Yeah, that's funny because I'm starting to get my Medicare stuff, and
aren't we both getting that old age stuff now? I'm 55 plus, so I'm hey, you should join AARP. Never going to happen.
Yeah. But so Tucson is, I think back when we were kids, if you lived east of the Mississippi and you were going to warm weather, it was always Florida. And if you lived west of the Mississippi, it might have been California or Texas or Arizona. Arizona is huge with seasonal visitors. See, sometimes a month at a time, but as you and I discussed, our population doubles almost in the winter. We have people with second and third homes here. Our feeder cities are Chicago and Minneapolis and Milwaukee and all the places.
Okay, that's a term I've never heard before. That's what I was trying to ask. Where do they come from? And you call it feeder cities. That's
feeder cities. Yeah.
Makes sense. Good terminology.
Yeah, you were just talking about Chicago. Chicago's one of the largest groups here. We also have a lot from Ohio, which is fascinating. But people come for several reasons. One is don't want to shovel snow. But they still have family back in those other places. They've paid for their homes. They have no reason that they can't come here for half the year. And at church, we see it. We see it in the parking lot. That all of a sudden around, by the time the leaves are off the trees, depending on where they're coming from, the first snow, we have people that are here for Thanksgiving, Christmas, all the way through Easter. Other people celebrate Thanksgiving back at home with family or something, and then they come here after. And the other thing that's kind of unique and interesting to me that didn't make any sense to me living in Ohio was that predominantly they're looking for single-story homes. They've walked steps, they've had basements, they've done all that when you think of the different styles of homes in different places. So here, we're getting older down here. I barely want this much. I don't want 2 inches that I have to go up and down.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And simultaneously,
I'm telling you, keeping the elves in track at the workshop is hard work up and down on my legs.
As you're down there. And the thing that's interesting for me too is honestly, I told a lot of my friends, I just bought a little condo for an Airbnb. It's upstairs. So the people that are going to use it for a weekend or a week or a month or 2 months are people that don't mind walking up 2 sets of stairs to get there, because you got to turn and go up. But they are also the people that are the hikers and the bikers and the people that are the birders and that are going to be out in the desert in the winter months here and pretty physically fit, frankly, So
so when they do a census,
yeah,
and if they started at the beginning of the year, do those snowbirds report Arizona?
It depends what's on the tax records. Most of them report where their mailing address is for
what their primary residence is, what they can carry as a homestead.
And that's always a thing in the tax base when people are voting for schools and stuff. When you have people that go, I only live here half the year, my kids are grown. It's always an interesting topic of discussion, I will say. Yeah.
Right. And while you've had that, I'm sure you've seen Tucson have some steady growth in the 20 years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But in the 30 years now that I've been down here in San Antonio, we don't get that snowbird population. We do not have, well, there are some, but they don't buy homes. They come in RVs. So we have RV parks, which will swell during winter months, but it's people who are coming really for a much shorter period of time. They don't buy houses and then go back to other houses. We have had much more of a steady progression and growth year over year over year in the 31 years I've lived here, to where our full city population is 2.5. You look at the metro area now, and you add another 400,000 people in all the little suburbs. And it's grown, which is why our demand for real estate has been consistent and persistent. And I don't think it's any one thing. We have a lot of tourism here in San Antonio.
Right.
Our conference business, our convention business, we have been selected because of our facilities for multiple NCAA basketball tournaments, which is coming up this month, as well as Final Fours here in town. So we get a lot of that kind of business, but it's in and out, temporary, and hasn't been a consistent buildup.
But you brought up, you do have professional teams. We don't have professional teams in Tucson. In Phoenix, they do. So right. in the Keller Williams real estate world of entertainment and sports, the sports piece here in town doesn't make any sense for me to participate in. Whereas
and you guys are so close to Phoenix.
Yeah.
There's not going to be another team anytime in our lifetime.
Right.
Like San Antonio has tossed it around for years. Heck, the Alamo Dome that we talked about, and I'll say talked about incorrectly in our episode about the rodeo. It's the AT&T Centers where the rodeo's at. And I said that, and I agreed with you on Alamo Dome. So anyhow, the Alamo Dome was built and opened in 1993, the year after I got here, with the idea that it was going to lure an NFL team. Well, here we are, 30 years later, still no NFL team. We've gone through 5 different other teams. Our current is the San Antonio Brahmas, which are part of the XFL, which is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's co-owned football team, which is now playing at the Alamo Dome.
Braema, is that like the bull or something like that?
Yes, and they're pronouncing the Brahmas. Some of us, we pronounce it Brahmas, but they call it the Brahmas. And
I'm just proud that I figured it out at all.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. So what do you consider Tucson lifestyle? Do you consider yourself urban, or do you consider it?
Well, that might depend on where we came from, right? So when I came here, and we had 2 acres at the house on Main Street with apple trees and that little chicken coop barn that the kids converted, I couldn't understand why anybody would buy an acre of desert. Like, what do you do with an acre of desert?
Neither could your dad.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And so, yes, I consider it urban because we're a gastronomic city. I mean, the food is rated in all over the world every time. We have a major university like an Ohio State, like whatever, with thousands and thousands and thousands of people and educators. We have for me, I could drive 150 miles in a day around the city for somebody that doesn't know where they want to live. And I told this to somebody the other day when we were comparing Ohio. It was another Ohioan. And we talked about Lindsey. It was 6 miles to Fremont. And then it was like 3 miles to this town. And it was 4 miles to that one. And everything seemed very defined. Like you left a town to get to the next town, Elmore, from Lindsey. But here it just is starting to spread all the way up and down the highway. So 3 major cities, Tucson, Phoenix, Flagstaff, are growing together. And then the whole rest of the state, like, is just, if you think of the Four Corners and Chinle and the Navajo Nation, it's beautiful landscape, but it's not heavily populated. So for me, that's a very long answer to say that for me, it feels a little urban, but it's nothing like Phoenix. Phoenix is not my place, not what I want to do.
Right.
And I was telling you today, so I'm gonna share this as we were talking lifestyle. I got a referral from an agent in Denver. Colorado Springs, Denver. And the couple coming was specifically looking for an acre of land. They're looking at a manufactured house, and they want to be able to add to the well, and we have a well share. And the reason is they have a 3D printer that makes costumes for role play for Mandalorians. Now tell me, is Mandalorian like is that space?
It's Star Wars.
Star Wars, thank you.
Boba Fett introduced in The Empire Strikes Back is where that all developed from.
Well, the fact that I even recognized the word Mandalorian, I was pretty proud of myself. And so what they told me is that they have
this is the way.
Yeah. They have 2 months in Colorado where they can't do it because of the temperature. So they want to move down here. They need space. They have a lot of stuff. They have equipment, but they also need water to be able to wash these things off when they make them. First of all, the fact that they're printed on a 3D printer still boggles my mind. But this is a lifestyle, right? They have 53,000 Instagram followers for this thing that they do. And they know they need a warmer climate, and they know they need the ground to be flat, and they need to be able to have another business, and they need to be able to put water to it. And in everything that would be considered urban, that's not happening, right?
That's not going to fit. But comparing Tucson to Phoenix, I feel like Tucson at 1.5 million feels small and very, very much less developed. It's roads that are paved but don't necessarily have curbs and drainage. Like so much of Phoenix and Scottsdale and Tempe all seems much more specifically finished and refined. San Antonio has a lot of that too. There, you can drive in areas of San Antonio, and I've got cows still in town right next to a subdivision of 500 houses.
Horses are still allowed right by the school that Caleb and Adam graduated from, just a mile or 2 up the road, because they're grandfathered in.
Get that same feel when you're in Phoenix.
No. However, with the way Phoenix is growing, with the 101, the 202, the 303, Rich and Susan, we're out past the 303. And yet, in theory, they're in Phoenix, right? Like when they were telling somebody where they lived. And that was farmland. And I, as a person moving here from what I thought was rich soil, super great farmland, I couldn't believe anything grew out here. Right. So that's been a learning experience for me, that people have made they're living their whole lives with farming and a different way of doing it, and different crops that they've grown. But even the circles, the concentric larger circles of Phoenix on the outside perimeter are taking over some farmland. But you are correct. If someone is a 30-year-old that wants a job that's going to grow and progress and move them up in big city, they're going to go to Phoenix. If they're a little bit more chill, is that a good word?
Yeah.
It might be Tucson. Yeah. And for me, that's just enough. And I can drive to Phoenix if I want, and I can come home the same night. But yeah, this feels big to me as a kid that grew up in a town of 500 people. Right. So.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to say before we close,
Yeah.
challenge our listeners. If you could try to articulate what your lifestyle was and break it down to 3 words, because
Mm.
you and I both know that in dealing with inbound clients, trying to connect and figure out what they're really looking for beyond just saying, I need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Right.
It's like, okay, why is that? Are you sure? The HOA, the non-HOA. Do you want to be more rural? Do you want to be in town? You live in a townhome. I live in a standalone house.
In
Your
the country,
townhome is
at the top of
connected.
a hill.
You have neighbors on both sides. I bought 6.5 acres and going, holy cow, someone can move right there. I need more land. So very, very different. And
Yeah.
we have, for the 20 years we've been out here, people asked us, oh my gosh, that drive. And it's like, yeah, oh my gosh, that view.
Yeah.
So there are disadvantages that we are willing to accept. But if you were going to try to, what were those 3 words? And I'm not even going to say, let's try to answer them ourselves right now. Think about it when we come back next episode, if we can come up with the 3.
3 words that, yeah.
3 words that convey what your lifestyle is.
So
anybody who wants to listen to answer that, but we got to go.
Confusing and eclectic if you look around, right?
There you go. I see. Cluttered. Hey, look, this wall is really in good shape when you...
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying it's dusted. You can't see if I've dusted it or not, but...
I probably know the answer to that.
From a design and a layout standpoint,
it's quite artistic.
If you looked at my desk just out of camera view, you might have a different opinion of me.
Yeah.
I followed the Albert Einstein genius, lots of piles.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself.
Okay. I need those affirming thoughts.
Yeah. All righty. Why don't you?
All right. We're going to close this episode. We want to thank everybody for listening and joining us again as we blended our lifestyle and property into what we call a real estate podcast. If you are in Arizona, specifically Tucson, or in South Central Texas or San Antonio, we are both realtors with Keller Williams Heritage. Donna can help you in Arizona. I'm here to help you in Texas. If you are around the country or even around the world, remember, we are part of a massive network of real estate agents, and we can help connect you with the perfect real estate agent to reflect and refine your lifestyle in where you're moving. So until next time, remember, it may be simple, but it ain't always easy. I'm Eric.
And I'm Donna.
And we are real siblings. Bye, y'all.
Bye.